In the world of Detroit manufacturing, there is a document known as a scrap order. When a prototype finishes its testing, it is legally required to be destroyed. This isn't just a choice, it's a matter of tax law and liability. To the accountants, these cars are zeros on a balance sheet, but to the engineers who built them, they were masterpieces. Today, we are looking at 5 legendary machines that were officially recorded as destroyed in corporate ledgers, but were actually snuck out the back door by the very men who designed them. In 1963, Ford wanted a Corvette killer for the upcoming World's Fair. They took a leaf spring Shelby Cobra chassis, specifically chassis CSX 2008, and sent it to Italy. The result was the Cougar 2, a gorgeous fastback beast with a 289 Hypo V8. After its 1964 tour, Ford's legal department issued a standard destruction order. They couldn't sell it because it didn't meet safety standards, and they didn't want to pay the taxes to keep it. But a high-ranking Ford executive named Bordenot couldn't let it happen. He utilized a loophole where the car was sold for $1 to a private museum under the condition that it would never be driven. For decades, Ford's internal records showed the car as disposed of. In reality, CSX 2008 lived a secret life in private collections for nearly 40 years before it was fully restored. It is one of the only Italian-bodied Shelby Cobras to ever escape the Ford scrap heap. Oldsmobile's F-88 was the car that terrified Chevrolet. Built in 1954 on a Corvette chassis, it featured a high-compression rocket V8 that made the early 6-cylinder Corvettes look like toys. GM leadership, fearing internal competition, ordered all 4 F-88 prototypes to be sent to the crusher. Here is where the history gets forensic. An engineer named E.L. Johnston was tasked with the destruction. Instead, he oversaw the car being disassembled into hundreds of individual crates. The crates were labeled as Oldsmobile Parts Inventory and shipped to his home in a series of different trucks to avoid detection by GM security. The car remained in crates for decades until it was reassembled and sold at the Barrett-Jackson auction in 2005 for a staggering $3.24 million. It remains the most expensive disobedience in Oldsmobile history. In 1964, Pontiac head John DeLorean wanted a 2-seater sports car. The project was called the XP833, or the Banshee. It was light, fiberglass bodied, and looked like a spaceship. However, GM executives saw it as a direct threat to the Corvette and ordered the project killed and the prototypes crushed. DeLorean, known for his rebellious streak, couldn't watch his dream get flattened. He reportedly convinced the company to sell the silver coupe and a white convertible to a sympathetic third party to get them off the books. These cars didn't just survive, they were kept in pristine functional condition. The silver coupe eventually surfaced with only 1,498 miles on the odometer. It is a physical piece of evidence of the Civil War that existed between Pontiac and Chevrolet in the mid-60s. In 1969, Dodge built one of the most aerodynamic concepts in history, the Charger 3. It had no doors. Instead, the entire top canopy tilted forward for entry. It featured a flip-out air brake and a massive 426 Hemi. When Chrysler moved on to the 70s, the car was slated for the crusher per corporate policy. But the Charger 3 was diverted. It was officially recorded as destroyed, but it was actually moved into a long-term storage facility owned by a Chrysler partner. For years, historians thought it was gone. It wasn't until the late 80s that the car was rediscovered in a climate-controlled warehouse. It survived because an anonymous manager misplaced the scrap order paperwork, allowing the car to sit in a legal limbo for 20 years before it could be sold into a private collection. Our final survivor is the 1954 Plymouth Belmont. This was Plymouth's first true sports car, built with a fiberglass body to compete with the 1953 Corvette. After the Motorama tour ended, the Belmont was ordered to be destroyed to avoid import duties and liability issues. The car was saved by Virgil Exner, the legendary head of Chrysler Design. Exner managed to purchase the car from Chrysler for a nominal fee by classifying it as an engineering study rather than a vehicle. He kept the car for years as his personal transport. Unlike many concept cars that are hollow shells, the Belmont was a fully functional machine with a V8 engine. Because Exner put his own name on the title, Chrysler's lawyers couldn't touch it. It remains one of the most beautiful and complete survivors of the Crush era. These cars didn't survive because of luck. They survived because people risk their jobs to preserve history. 99% of you watching aren't subscribed yet, but we are building a channel that values the facts over the myths. We want to hit 10,000 subscribers to start doing on-site investigations of these crusher locations. Hit subscribe, join the search party, and tell me in the comments, if you had to hide a car from a corporate crusher today, where would you stash it? I'm reading every theory. I'll see you in the next investigation.